going. Okay. So remember, if you haven't turned in benchmark 4, you need to do so. I have not taken names off the list if you turned it in. So if your name's on this list, it was from yesterday. But if you still haven't turned that in, make sure you turn in benchmark 4. Scrolling down, I'm going to wear my mask today. I have a few students in the room with me. So I'm just going to keep my mask on. And whenever we go to the AB schedule in a couple of weeks, I'll have to wear my mask because we'll have so many students in the class that I'll be wearing my mask at all times. So just be aware that I'll have to do this probably from now on. So scrolling down here or looking at our agenda. Why is agenda not? Oh, okay, because I did not share it to 5th and 6th. Let's go back to 3rd. The first thing I have on the agenda, you can see your agenda right now, is that I want you all working on a grade check. So basically what I want you to do right now is go to so make sure you have submitted all your ECHO work for ECHO. Very important to make sure you don't have any zeros or any failing grades. So you can go to your grade book right now by clicking on those 3 little pancakes and hitting grade book. I'm not going to click on that because you'll be able to see everybody's grades. But go to your grade book, take about a minute, just look over, make sure you don't have any zero, missing assignments. Some of you have a 0, although you turned it in because it was incomplete. Some of you have a 0 because you didn't hit the submit button. So take a second. Now, anytime you submit something after having a 0, it's always a good idea to email your teacher, okay? Send an email and say, Mr. Richard or whoever it might be, I've submitted my work, this assignment. Will you please get that graded when you have a chance? So always send an email if you're sending it in late so that you can get that taken care of as soon as possible. So take a moment, look at your grade book, and we'll be back in just a second. So someone that's sitting in the room here asked, why is the works cited not graded yet? I just hadn't had a chance to get to that yet. But I will have that graded probably by tomorrow. But everything else does have a grade and is graded. The only thing that hasn't been graded is benchmark 5. So grade should be in there. And if you have submitted benchmark 5 but still have a 0, let me know and I'll make sure to take out that 0. So our next thing that we're going to do is today we're going to be talking about the last thing that you're going to be doing for this project. And actually, if we go up to our knows and need to knows, go back here, for our project, you will actually see that we are done with everything. I can mark out the MLA format and the works cited page because we have done that. So everything is complete. The only thing we haven't done, which we do for every project, is a presentation of some kind. So because of distance learning, I had to change this project and it's been kind of morphing. Usually every year I bring in people from businesses around town and you all get to meet with them face to face. And just with how things are right now and the distance learning, obviously we're not able to meet face to face with people. I tried to get a Google Meet going with a bunch of people, but the logistics and the demand on our community partners was just too high. So I didn't want to waste their time and try to do this. So we kind of adapted this to where I'm going to have you all do a Benchmark 6 career mock interview. So you're going to do an interview and you're kind of going to interview yourself in a way and you're going to record yourself. And this is going to be an oral communication grade, but also practice for you all to see what doing an interview is like. So I'm assuming a lot of you all have never done an interview. If you have, that's great. But today we're going to kind of talk about what does it look like doing an interview? What are some of the very basics that you need to be thinking about? So number 2, our workshop source video interview guide, tips for a successful interview, especially a video interview, because the world we live in now, we are doing obviously a lot of things on video and on Google Meet and things like that. So it's good to prep for this, okay? So let's first look at this workshop. So if you scroll down, there is actually just a link that is an article. We're not going to read the whole article, but if you want to look through it in greater detail after I highlight some of the information, if you click on the link, it'll open up the link for you. And it is actually from Indeed.com, which Indeed is one of the largest places in which people can search for employment. I have gotten jobs through Indeed.com, through 84 Lumber, and through a restaurant that I worked at in college. My wife actually found her attorney position at Southern Star through Indeed.com. My father-in-law, who's an electrical engineer, is looking at jobs through or careers through Indeed.com. So it has everything from restaurant jobs all the way up to attorneys and electrical engineers and everything in between. So it's a great place to look for a job. So them sharing some information about how to be a better interviewer and how to be to do well with that is really important. So let's look over this. There's a couple of things I want to just point out. So it's a long article, but we're just going to look at some of the big things. You can kind of follow along if you just want to watch my screen, or you can be looking at on your computer. So the first thing is this a good source? We know Indeed is a good source for employment. We know that looking at the date, May 29th, 2020, that's a great time for this to come out, because it's kind of during the pandemic, during a lot of this social distancing. So we know this is really good, really appropriate, and would pass the crap test just from these quick little glances and knowing this website. So if we look, video interview tips. So here's the big interview tips. And these are a lot of just common sense, but stuff we need to think about. So first is find a quiet, private place that's well lit. Ensure your internet connection is stable. Obviously, check that your computer's audio is working. Test your computer's webcam. Dress professionally. Have a pen and notepad to take notes on when listening. Nod and smile. Use hand gestures when appropriate. Make sure your phone's on silent. So those are big general just interview tips. Okay. So you want to have good body language when you're talking to someone. You want to make sure you're not going to be disturbed, so on and so forth. We're not going to watch this video. We're going to scroll down to what to wear for a video interview. Now, for your assignment, I'm not going to require you to dress in a certain way. We will eventually be doing projects in which I will require a certain type of professional dress, whether that be a collared shirt or a tie or a dress or slacks or whatever it might be. We'll talk about that later, but for this interview, for this benchmark, you do not have to dress professionally. We're not at that point yet, but it's good to start thinking about. Okay. And for this, if we read this together, it says what to wear for an interview. For your video interview, you should dress professionally, the same way you would dress for an in-person interview. Research the company culture before the interview so you have a good idea of what's appropriate. So that's a really good point. So if you're going to go and interview at a business or as a teacher or a doctor or an attorney or an engineer, then the culture of that place is really important. So most likely that culture is something more business professional, meaning for men, a collared shirt, a tie, slacks, something like that. For women, it could be similar: collared shirt, slacks, professional suit, a professional dress, something like that. So it's important to understand. But if I'm going to interview for a t-shirt company that specializes in making t-shirts for sports team or making t-shirts for X Games or for snowboarding or something like that, I might research and find out that their common dress is much more laid back. So wearing a t-shirt and jeans might be really appropriate for that interview process. Okay. Whenever I worked at 84 Lumber, I knew I was going into a lumber yard, so my professional dress was a polo t-shirt with some work khakis and boots. Okay, so I wouldn't have wore that to a teacher's interview. So it's really important to be thinking about that. To look your best on camera, avoid bright colors and patterns that opt for softer colors instead. Wearing a tie or solid colors are much better because they're less distracting. Okay, so be thinking about what you would wear to an interview. And here's another important one is body language, okay? And this is going to really talk on the one thing that I really want you to work on in this interview is eye contact, okay? So eye contact is very important during an in-person interview, and you want to convey the same level of connection during a video interview. So here's how. Avoid the instinct of looking directly at the interviewer on the screen while you're answering. So don't look like right now. Usually you're going to be looking at someone like this, okay? So my interview, if I'm interviewing with a person, obviously I'm seeing myself, but I don't want to stare at my computer screen because you can see right now, am I looking at you? No, I'm looking at the computer screen. But if I look at the camera, it's much more natural because I'm actually looking in. It's almost like I'm looking into the eyes of the interviewer, okay? And there are some biological, scientific reasons that eye contact is important because it conveys kind of this social understanding that you are confident, that you're being truthful, you're being honest, that you have kind of a handle on your professionalism, okay? So you can really, making that eye contact is really important, okay? And that's the one thing that we're going to work on and you are going to be graded on for this video interview. So you really need to be working on looking at the camera, okay? You also want to avoid reading. So you could have notes. So let's say I have some notes here for my video interview. It's really important that you can make eye contact just like this with the camera. And then if you're talking and you need to think, okay, what was I going to say next? You can look down, look at a note, and then you can bounce back up. So a quick glance down, a quick look at the paper, and then looking back up is very natural, okay? It's better to use notes and glance down and glance up and not mess up and not forget what you're saying and things like that. That's okay. But what you want to avoid is reading your information and not looking up at the camera and continuing to look down and then popping up every once in a while. That gives the impression you're not prepared, you don't know what you're talking about, you're not organized, and you wouldn't be the best person for the job or for the presentation. So eye contact is really important. Okay, so continue on. When you're listening, nod and smile when appropriate and communicate that you're giving your full attention. Okay, so you want to convey that like, yes, I understand. Yeah, you don't want to sit there and just be like headbanging the whole time, but you want to be communicating that you're listening and that you're prepared. Okay, the rest of this article goes into tech setup if things go wrong. We're not going to get into all of that right now. It's a great source, and I hope that you can take some time to look through this later. There's no required assignment for you to do so, but that is available to you. But I want you to start thinking about what does it look like to be a better interviewer, okay? Because that's something you're going to be doing in the next few years. So if we go back over to Echo, let's talk about what assignment we have for today. So that is benchmark 6. This is our last assignment for this project before we move on to our next project. And I have the due date set for tomorrow. So you have today to kind of plan and practice, and then you can record tomorrow or record by the end of the class. So you have today and tomorrow, and Wednesday we don't have classes in person or meeting classes. So you have until our new class or our new project starts Thursday. But let's look at what we're doing today. So for benchmark 6, you'll be recording a mock interview, so kind of a fake interview. I will supply the questions and you will video yourself as you are in an interview. You must record using the Echo recording button found by clicking in the Dropbox and finding it in the toolbar above the Dropbox. It looks like this. So do not record using your just computer. You need to record using your computer's camera, but through the Echo Dropbox. And actually, I'm going to go to the student view so I can show you exactly how to do that. We've done this. This is probably the 3rd time we've done it in this class, and I'm sure you've done it in other classes. Okay, so I'm going to go down and show you the student view so you can see that. I just thought about this. If you want to see what I'm seeing, you can come over. If you're good, you're fine. I don't care. Whatever you want to do. But I wanted that available to you. So benchmark 6, mock interview. So if you go down to the Dropbox and you click on the Dropbox, this is how you actually use the video recording. We're looking for this button right here, down here. You click if you don't click in the Dropbox, you're not going to see it. You need to click in the Dropbox, and then it's right up here. It says insert video, okay? So you hit insert video, and it will pop up your video camera, and you can hit record, and it will start recording you, and you can record and talk, and it gives you 3 minutes, which is plenty of time because this is only a 1-minute interview. And you hit stop, and then it will automatically process. You hit insert, and then you have to hit submit my work. Make sure you hit submit my work. Never forget to do that, okay? And hit insert, but I'm not going to do that right now because I don't want to do that yet. So let's go look at what we need to do for this interview. So in the video, you will read the question out loud and then give your answer while making eye contact. So eye contact is a big deal with this project or with this presentation. It's one of your biggest grading points. So you will answer the following questions / prompts. Number 1, what is your name and what is your profession for it? So I'm going to give you an example of what your interview could look like. Okay. So number 1 would say, you would read, what is your name and what profession are you interviewing for? So you start the interview and you'd say, my name is John Richard and I am interviewing for a high school teacher position. You go to number 2. Tell me a little about the profession and why you would like to work in this career field. And it says about 20 seconds for that. So the profession of teacher involves someone that works with children inside of a school building and work, blah, blah, blah. I'm going in the work environment, things like that. And then I'm going to go into why I want to be a teacher. I want to be a teacher because I like moving around a room. I like working with young adults to help them plan their future. I enjoy the breaks and having summers off and things like that. So give a few reasons. So that's just 20 seconds, okay? And 20 seconds isn't a really long time. So if you go over that 20 seconds, that's okay. So number 3 is, what path do you need to take to accomplish your goal of obtaining a job in this career field? So what training, college, the experience you'll have to get for the job. So about 20 seconds. So this is where you'll talk about what you've researched for this project. So for a teacher, you have to go to school and get a bachelor's degree, which is a 4-year degree. After teaching, you will get your teacher certification. And once you have your teacher certification, you can apply for jobs. It helps if you have experience being a substitute teacher or volunteering to do tutoring. And those are that's the best path to become a high school teacher. So you're talking about that path to be able to go from high school to your profession, which you wrote about in Benchmark 5. And then number 4, what makes you the best candidate for this position? So this is something you need to become better at. You need to be able to brag on yourself, okay? And I know that you're taught to be humble, and I know you're taught to be, not to be not self-confident, but not to brag on yourself and things like that. A lot of people are, but in an interview, you need to brag on yourself. So brag on yourself and explain the best parts of who you are. For example, you can talk about how you're a hard worker, or you're really organized, or you can handle stress, or you're smart or talented. Give examples, okay? And this is about 15 seconds. Don't lie. Don't make things up. Like, I'm not going to interview and be like, I've written 5 novels and I'm a great, I'm 7'3" and, I can fly. I'm not going to lie in an interview, okay? So you don't want to say things that aren't true, but you want to point out your good things. And if you say, I don't have anything, I don't know what to say, I don't have any good things, that's not true, okay? There are some things that you're good at, and you need to think about those things. Are you good at solving puzzles? Are you good at talking with friends? You need to come up with something that you're good at and be positive, because all of you are good at something, okay? So bring that up. And if nothing else, explain how you want to be a hard worker, or you want to do these things. You want to be more organized. You want to be a hard worker. You want to try to become more smart and more intelligent and things like that, and work on handling stress. So if you can't think of anything positive, talk about what you want to do, okay, what you're striving to do, okay? So just 4 questions, okay, those 4 questions. And then for grading, let's talk about what grading looks like. This is oral communication, 10 points. So at this point in the class, it's worth 5% of your grade. So the first one is 5 points, eye contact. So eye contact with the camera when answering interview questions. Avoid reading answers, as you will lose points if you're just reading. You should be prepared for the interview, okay? So making eye contact with the camera for a majority of the time when you're not reading questions. And again, you can use notes if you just glance down and look up, okay? The second is 3 points in organization. Make sure you are organized and follow the question prompts. Read the questions out loud, then answer the questions. So you're reading the questions, answering the questions. And then the last one is 2 points. This is for professionalism and timing. Make sure the camera is angled so that so it's at eye level and you're recording in a quiet place without distractions. Your video should be a minimum of 60 seconds. Okay, so 1 minute at minimum. You probably don't want to go over 2 minutes. You're probably getting too long if you go over 2 minutes. So as far as the video camera is what I'm talking about, if you'll notice, I lift my camera. It's sitting on a box, and I'll kind of show you. It's sitting on a box right here, okay? So I lift my camera, so you can use whatever you need to at home, boxes or pot, pan, whatever you need to use to get it lifted up, because you want the interviewer's camera at eye level, okay? If you're down here interviewing like this, I'm looking down at you. It's not a good angle. It's not the right way to do it. So you want to be eye level. So that's what I'm talking about. So there's a point value there. And we talked about that in our last video. Okay. Make sure you're. Yes.
So when I applied for my job here at OIA, it was in April. My interview was in April, and I couldn't. Here, let me put my camera on so you can. I couldn't. They didn't do anything face to face. Like, you had to do everything virtually. So I did my interview in my bedroom, but I had on. So when you're doing things that way, we talked about looking professional and that sort of thing. Nobody knew if I had on sweatpants on the bottom half, but I made sure that I was presentable for the top half. And also with that is good lighting. So it's not just about the position of your computer, but also the light. Because if it's dark and you have a light behind you, they're not going to be able to see your face or your facial expressions. So you want ideally natural light that shoots in from the windows versus an overhead light, just because it gives a better image. So that's all. It was interesting to do an online interview because I was just as nervous as if I were doing it in person.
Yeah. And to give you an example, that's why I had to put up blinds. And let me make this bigger. So you'll notice that I have a window right here. If I didn't have window blinds on here, look how bright this would be. So it would be, see how hard it is to see me? Now, it's trying to fix it, but I'm much darker. You can barely see me at times. Okay, so that's why I put up this so that I was able to be seen much easier. So Ms. Stockdale makes a great point in that. So something you need to think about as you're doing interviews and you're working on this. So that is all I have for you all today as far as the lesson goes. I'm going to let you all work on your video. Make sure you have all your other assignments going. Wednesday is a catch-up day, so make sure everything's done. I'll be available. Email me or whatever you need to do to get a hold of me. Email's the best. So you guys go work on this. I'll hang out on the Google Meet if you need any help. Thank you.